are talking about this week. You know, a few weeks ago you heard us talk about Need for Speed Shift, and we all confessed to being not aficionados of the simulation driving game.
Correct.
And we all expressed an affinity for Need for Speed Shift, which is definitely more on that simulation side of the racing. But now this week, we've got a true simulation game, and that's Forza 3. It's from Turn 10 Studios, and it is in that Gran Turismo tradition of being comprehensive look at hundreds of cars.
Hyper-realistic.
Racing them on tracks, create as much of a, find that perfect racing line and create as much of a true racing experience as they can possibly put onto a video game.
Correct.
This one includes a new feature, which is Rewind. So at any point during the game, during a race, you can rewind a bit and correct a mistake you may have made.
As long as you don't do it within a couple seconds of starting the race.
You really didn't start that well?
I found that out. Because I was like, boop, boop. Oh.
Lots of incredible community stuff. The Forza series has been famous for being able to great camera modes, modding your car, all kinds of crazy stuff. All that is carried over into this version. Dan, you loved Need for Speed Shift, as did we all.
Right.
Are you a true simulation game guy now or not?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
Let me rephrase.
Answer that question with a riddle.
What's interesting is, I really dug the vibe of Forza 3. It reminded me of Mirror's Edge. Everything's very white.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of ambient techno music that's just very pleasant. I just like being.
Assassin's Creed.
I was actually going to say that is that where Need for Speed Shift is sort of like a guitar riff.
Yeah.
This game is like a
Ambiance,
soothing bath.
Trance music.
Welcome to the planet Forza.
Yeah.
You will be passenger 5.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I really dug that, and I think it's all very solidly, very well made. I wish I could comment on some of the things that I think are probably the things that are really spectacular about this game, which is what I observed of the storefront, where you can make parts and sell them,
right?
And like really
jobs,
deep,
all kinds of stuff. Which Forza 2 had
crazy
as well.
stuff. But I have to say, I actually got what I thought was very far, but was only the 1% through the game. I put the game in hard mode. I started in medium and it was extremely easy. Then I put it in hard mode and it was still extremely easy. So I went in and I customized things, and I never really, it was never super challenging. It was fun. I did have a good time playing. And the rewind feature I started off sort of like, that's silly, it's like not a challenge at all. But then I realized, oh no, this is spectacular, because the things that are really stressful when you play a racing game, when you make one stupid mistake and everything's fine, or you blink or sneeze or something, it's like, so great to have that, or just
That's why I don't race cars.
when you're doing a lot of laps and there's an endurance thing and you just want to and you make a silly mistake, it's so wonderful to have that rewind feature. Spectacular. But I have to say, in every level, I enjoyed Need for Speed Shift more. I enjoyed the graphics more in Need for Speed Shift. I enjoyed the variation in levels and track design in Need for Speed Shift, and I enjoyed the gameplay. Need for Speed Shift, there was racing one car versus another car, and then racing in a real race, and then time, whatever, and drifting. There was enough variation to keep me wanting to keep playing, and this got a little monotonous.
Well, there is variation in this game, and it sort of forces you to seek it out, I think, a little bit more than Need for Speed. It'll hold your hand through that calendar progression that Forza has.
Right.
And if you kind of get into one rut with one car, you can kind of keep going and going and going in the game without ever really progressing to anything that's different. Whereas if you actively buy new cars and you can even back out, it gives you those 3 options in your week, and you can back out and find other options.
I did that, but none of that to me compared to enough of the variation that I got with Need for Speed Shift.
Interesting. Dude, I can't.
So what did you think?
I couldn't agree with you more, Dan. I think, for me, first off, the rewind button, game changing because it totally takes that stress of, oh my God, I'm a moron. And it also allows you to try to do the harder things. Like I was really trying to drift into corners, and really trying to, figure out, well, what, because you never get to experiment in those race car games when you've got all these people barreling down and you're like, well, I wonder what the difference is between using the handbrake into the turn when they're really sharp and not. And so there were a couple times where I was like, and I'm like, boop, boop. Yeah. Okay, handbrake, not at hairpin turn. You know what I mean? Like, so it did allow for that kind of stuff. And I really liked the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic was really pleasing to me. But at the end of the day, it was just sort of the same thing. Like I just would kind of circle around the tracks, and I was like, yeah. And especially now that there's that rewind button, though I think it's great and I'm happy that it's there, it does make it a little bit less tense. So I'm just kind of going, and then I bump somebody, and I'm like, well, let's see if it works. And then it ends up I can't get it back, so I just go boop, 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 and then I don't bump them. You know what I mean? So it just became a little bit monotonous. Now that said, as people who have professed to be not super into the sort of simulation racers, if you are into simulation racers, this is probably a freaking amazing game.
Yeah, I'm sure you've already bought it.
Oh, and there's so many, like the upgrading stuff. The other thing that they do, which I think is really, really good for people who are not big fans, is the auto upgrade your car.
Yes.
Amazing, because I would never upgrade my car because I was like, I have no idea whether me as a player should need an extra blow on my carburetor or lock nuts for my wheels.
Someone asks you for an extra blow, you always say yes.
Okay, that does make sense.
I want to say something about that because I feel like I remember playing I remember loving one of the older Forza games. I'm pretty sure it was a Forza game.
Maybe
it was Gran Turismo. Where there was, in order to race, you had to sort of compete in like speed up and then slow down your car on a dime.
No, you had to get your driver's license.
You had to like
different driver's licenses. That was
Gran
Turismo 4 or 2.
Well, that kind of variation I really enjoyed, and I was missing in this kind of.
Because you couldn't, you like hit a wall where you couldn't go any further until you did like these precision
and then it was like I had to pass the controller. Can you do it? Can you pull it off?
Yeah.
You played with the racing wheel, right?
I did. I went out and bought a racing wheel, the Microsoft racing wheel, and I'm in to these games. This is what I always wanted. I always wanted to be able to play these simulation racing games, and I never could find any fun in them. And I think that this game, what it does so well is it makes all this so accessible. The racing line, the rewind feature, like you said, auto upgrade, all those things make this very dense field of precision racing much more accessible to the naysayer or to the non-expert. And I think we can't really give an educated experience of what the real aficionados will think of this game. But what we can give is what a non-racing guy,
casual racer.
Exactly. And for that, man, I really enjoyed playing it. It's like playing Pixel Junk Eden or something for me. It's like a relaxation, which racing games have never been for me. And I remember you mentioning a couple weeks ago that I had always said I don't like racing games because they stress me out too much. This game is the opposite of that. It's a wonderful relaxation. With that wheel, it's like real driving. I'm cruising. I'm having a great time. I get to really kind of zone out and focus in on creating that good racing line. And like you said, the music, the whole wrap of this game is such a aesthetically pleasing, soothing experience. I got to race a Ferrari Testarossa, which was the only car when I was a kid. Like I had a poster of a car.
I had a Lamborghini Countach or something.
Funny
poster. You probably want to up the difficulty level if you were relaxed, I would think. Well, but I want to say that.
But I enjoyed that experience of being relaxed.
Well, I mean, I don't want to rob you of that.
And I think that the difficulty comes in when you start playing online against real human beings.
Well, but also,
that always is like, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
I definitely felt at a disadvantage playing with a controller. It sort of dawned on me. I mean, I think that the wheel for a racing game is like. Not playing with the wheel on a racing game is like not using a arcade stick on a fighting game, because the way when you like racing's all about that smoothness, and it's impossible. I mean, I don't want to develop that where like
I don't want to develop
where my thought like when we're playing in our controllers, like when you turn, you go right? Because you can't move your thumb, right? But the wheel, it's that you can do that. You literally can't do it.
Enjoy the experience
without.
of the wheel.
Interesting.
So I definitely feel like I wish I'd played with a wheel.
You had an opportunity during our 24-hour game, and you didn't really want to.
I did.